All right, thank you. Thank you for sticking around. We hope this will be an informative panel for a handful of people in the room. My name is Ryan Gellner. I run the outreach program for Vision Zero out of the North Dakota Association of Counties. And my goal today is to introduce you to a handful of our coordinators that are here, and then show you a new program that we have going on for our Vision Zero outreach coordinators. Our Vision Zero outreach coordinators are spread throughout the state. We have 5 Vision Zero outreach coordinators at the current moment, although we are expanding to the west as well, so soon we will have a 6th Vision Zero outreach coordinator. These are our coordinator regions, and they are throughout the state. I have 2 of the coordinators with me today that I will introduce to you in just a second, but I want to tell you how we got here and what some of the most important things we're working on throughout the state. Our coordinators are doing pretty much everything in the realm of traffic safety. Our coordinators work with what's called Vision Zero schools. We have schools set up throughout the state that are taking the Vision Zero statewide program and putting them into their hallways, into their parking lots, and into their schools. They are doing messaging, they are doing signage, they are holding each other accountable, and they are counting on safe drivers within their schools to go out into their communities and make Vision Zero realistic in their schools. Let me tell you just a little bit about Vision Zero schools. The program, we launched it in 2019. We have 13 schools that are Vision Zero schools. Why so few? Because we can't just pick a school and make them a Vision Zero school. It's not what we want. We want schools that are dedicated to the program, schools that will grow the program, and schools that will work. So it takes some inside administration, students, you name it, but it takes give and take with these Vision Zero schools. So they're selected very carefully. Our Vision Zero school leaders are selected very carefully, and it's very much a give and take because we give them a lot of things to do, and we want them to do it. We have over 80 student leaders that act as student leaders within our program, and they are pushing the agenda for Vision Zero. They are setting up parking lot surveys. They are doing surveys within their schools so we can put positive norming posters on their wall that say 95% of Des Lacs Burlington students are buckling up. Are you? And so we can get right to the data point of that school, not a statewide statistic, not a national statistic, but a statewide, or rather a school-specific statistic to each one of our schools. We have small schools, we have large schools. We just launched Cheyenne High School in West Fargo, which will be our largest school, and they have a ton of capabilities. We're excited to see where Cheyenne High School will start to take our large schools. We have a lot of small schools, and those small schools are excelling. They're challenging each other within their hallways. They're challenging other schools to do Vision Zero things. They're doing announcements at every home basketball and football game. They're doing morning announcements. They're doing things before school, after school. They're having assemblies talking about traffic safety, holding each other accountable. Each school has a different emphasis. So same school slide, but now the emphasis. A couple of them are focused on seatbelts, some on distracted driving. We have one school that is impaired driving. We have a couple of schools that do buckle up, phone down. We launched that program a couple of years ago. And we have a couple of schools that are focused on speed. And our coordinators work hand in hand with those schools. Today we're going to talk about our Impact Teen Drivers program. Our Impact Teen Drivers program has been going strong for a number of years. This program is delivered directly to teens, not just at Vision Zero schools, but throughout the state. And we have done thousands and thousands of students with our Impact Teen Drivers program. It talks about reckless driving, it talks about distracted driving. It talks about things like chapstick in your vehicle and how that can become a distraction, something we don't often think about when we're driving, but how that can become a distraction when you are behind the wheel. Our Impact Teen Drivers program is generally delivered to 15-year-olds to 18-year-olds, those that are in their first year of driving to those that have been driving for a year or two. And it is highly impactful. It's highly tested and highly impactful. This course, it takes an hour for us to go into the school and do. It's a free course, but it gets a 98% good or great rating every time we do a survey from the students. Those are thousands of surveys, 98% from a 15, 16, 17, and 18-year-old saying that the course is either good or great. So this course works. We have expanded our program to different areas. We now have a grade school program with Distractopus, where we bring in an octopus with 8 different arms, and each arm is holding a distraction, and we're able to talk to kindergartners and first graders and second graders about being good passengers within the car and holding the driver accountable for those passengers. We have passenger pets, which I don't have a slide of, but we have passenger pets that does the same thing. And so we can teach those second, third, and fourth graders. And so we've got that going pretty strong. One of the cool things is at our Vision Zero schools, we take our high school students, we train them on our grade school curriculum and put them right into their grade schools. How cool for a grade school student to be able to look up to the high school student that is teaching them about traffic safety and Vision Zero. And that's why Vision Zero Schools works, because we're able to do that. We are now adding a new program called Under Your Influence. So still underneath Impact Teen Drivers, but the Under the Influence. And that's the program you're going to hear today. Under the Influence, hopefully will touch home with a lot of you. It is brand new curriculum that we are teaching actually today for the first time. And it is geared towards parents who have teenage drivers or who have drivers that'll be into those front seats in the next year or so. So think of yourselves for the rest of this period as a 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old having a young person who is going to be driving or is newly driving. We are doing these hopefully at Vision Zero schools. Think about driver's ed classes as your student gets into a driver's ed class. That driver's ed class requiring a parent-teen workshop where you sit for an hour with your teen and go through this Under Your Influence course. And so I would like to introduce a couple of our coordinators. I'll introduce Molly Schoen first. Molly is from Ward County, and she will be presenting second. But first, joining me on stage, Theresa Thom. There's Molly in the back. Hi. Theresa Thom, who is from Burleigh County, and she will be leading off the program Under Your Influence. So please put yourselves as a parent of a 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old and enjoy our first presentation of Under Your Influence. Theresa.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, so before I really get started, how many of you do have teenagers in your house right now who are currently driving? Okay, a good handful of you. Great. That's really good for me to see. And those of you who did not raise your hands, I'm going to assume you're either a grandparent or you aren't a parent yet. But at some point in life, most of us will be parents. So this will apply to all of you. Today we're going to talk about how you can help your family, my family, and everyone else on our roadways be safer. Each of us obviously wants to get home safe every single day, and it takes all of us working together to get our families home safely. And you have the power to make the right choices, to influence your family, to make those decisions to get home safely. So, I want to start by you taking a moment and thinking about something that you taught your child. Maybe it was how to cook, maybe it was how to change the oil in the car, or how to change a tire. Maybe you taught them a good joke and now they're telling everyone. Whatever it is, whatever you taught your child, it could be the good, it could be bad, it could be ugly, whatever it is, you are a very influential parent on your child. Now I want you to think about the kind of child you want others to see them as. How do you want others to see your child? I'm going to guess that most of you want your child to be described as most of the words on the screen, if not all of them. And my guess is also that you are trying to role model these adjectives to your child. Now I want you to think about the last few times that you've driven with your child. Were you role modeling the best behaviors? Were you distracted? Were you drinking a coffee, talking on the phone? Maybe you were driving 5 miles over the speed limit because you don't usually get pulled over, driving 5 miles over the speed limit. Was there anything that diverted your attention while you were driving? So as you reflect on your behaviors in the car, I want you to think about how your teen would feel, how you would feel if your teen did those same things you did behind the wheel. Maybe you answer a phone call with your boss because it's really, really important. If you do that, your teen might also do that behind the wheel. They might say, you know what, my best friend's calling, it's super important, I gotta answer this phone call, or I gotta shoot this quick text. Whatever you do behind the wheel, your teen is watching you. And so making the decision to stay safe behind the wheel and put your phone away, or choosing not to drink your coffee, even though it's so delicious and you absolutely need it, your child sees that every time they are in the car with you. What we do and how we do when we get behind the wheel does matter, and it does influence the safety of our communities. As you are continuing to ponder that last drive, or wondering how you can help keep yourself and your family safe when driving, I want to share some information from some of our experts.
I love my kids. And let's be real, we parents know raising teens is really hard. I'm constantly reminding my kids how to drive and ride safely, but do they listen? Of course not. Classic teenagers. I tell them, don't eat while driving. What? I say, no talking on the phone.
Mom! What are you doing?
You know, you gotta pay attention to what you're doing. I just don't know where they get it from. As you just saw, it's so easy to fall into the habit of do as I say, not as I do. It didn't work for us when we were kids. So why do we think it will work on our teens? I'm a parent, you're a parent, and it can be overwhelming thinking about all the different things that go into having our children learn to drive. Did you know that car crashes are the #1 killer of teens in America? Particularly those caused by reckless and distracted driving. Driving too fast and anything that takes your hands off the wheel, eyes off the road, or mind off the drive, that's reckless and distracted driving. And guess what? 75% of those situations happen to teens who aren't under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Imagine your child losing their life or taking someone else's. How would your life change? It happens every day, and it can happen to you. As a parent myself, I know how devastating it would be. But the good news is, it doesn't matter what we did yesterday. It's what we start doing today. 100% of crashes due to reckless and distracted driving are preventable. One of the ways states try to help parents prevent these horrible crashes is through graduated driver licensing laws, GDL. These regulations cover the different stages of obtaining a driver's license. It's about slowly stepping up the freedom behind the wheel to go along with gaining the needed experience to be responsible. They reduce the 2 biggest risk factors for new teen drivers: nighttime driving, where it's harder to see and react, and where there are more impaired and drowsy drivers, and having multiple teen passengers in a vehicle, a recipe for distraction. Our teens are 4 times more likely to be involved in a fatal crash at night, and the same is true if there are 3 or more teens in the car. I'm sure some of you may have heard the term GDL, but how many of us know the letter of the law in our states? When is the legal curfew? How many passengers can they have, and at what age? These laws have reduced serious injuries and fatalities for teen drivers by up to 40%. That means it's worth our time to learn and follow your local graduated driver licensing laws. And remember, as parents, we can always choose to place more restrictions than the bare minimum stated in the law. Our kids' lives and the lives of others depend on it. I want to introduce you to a very special girl
She didn't just walk in and light up a room, she lit up the world.
She was always smiley, and she had the biggest dimples ever.
And it didn't matter if you were, 3 years old or the janitor at her high school. She was friends with everyone.
Yeah, me and Ryan were close because I would take her home from school. I would take her to school. On Wednesdays, I took her to cheer practice. We would go to the mall every time I got paid, and I would always blow my paycheck with her.
My girls, they wanted to hang out with each other over friends.
Yeah, I think she looked up to me.
Riley was the driver, and Abby, her friend, was in the passenger, and then Ryan was sitting in the back seat. They get in the car and they start heading home. And Riley's friend grabbed her phone and started playing songs. I got about a half a mile, and there had been an accident down the road which had backed up traffic.
As we were coming up over the hill, I saw a white car stopped, and so I immediately slammed on my brakes.
But when the next car was coming, the girl was on speakerphone with her mom and was looking down at her phone. So when she came up over the hill, she wasn't paying attention to see that the traffic was stopped. And when she finally looked up and slammed on the brakes, it was too late, and she hit Ryan directly at 34 miles per hour.
All I cared about was getting Ryan out of the car. And so she was pressed up against the back passenger seat, and all I cared about was getting that seat off of her.
Riley had called me, and she was hysterical.
And I was just kind of screaming in the middle of the road, saying that my sister was in the car, and I felt like no one was listening to me.
The scene was chaotic. When I ran up, I saw Ryan on the ground.
One of the deputy sheriffs calls me, and he tells me that they're life-flighting Ryan. When I got into the emergency room, they let me go see Riley. When I saw Riley, she was on a stretcher, and the deputy sheriff and the chaplain came. And I'm like, why the chaplain? In the movie, you just know it's not good.
And I asked, I was like, is my sister okay? And is she breathing? And he said yes, but it turns out she died on impact.
When Ryan was around, it was never quiet. It was all the time, non-stop, and now it's just quiet. And I don't like it.
As a parent, I can barely imagine the pain and suffering Ryan's family and friends endure every day of their lives. Especially when there's so many places that a safer decision could have changed the outcome. Look, I know it's not easy out there. Getting our kids to all their events while juggling our responsibilities at home and work and our sanity. I know Colleen would gladly have dealt with an extra year of learning and driving experience for Riley in order to have Ryan back. We can make a positive impact on the lives of those around us starting today. Talk to your kids. We can't protect them without being fully transparent and keeping dialogue open and ongoing. Teens need to feel empowered and trusted just like the rest of us. Help them believe in these things, not just do what they're told. Role model. Our kids have been watching us since they were forward-facing in a car seat, and they pick up on every little detail of what we do as a driver or passenger in the car. Drive the way you want your teen to drive. Your actions speak volumes. Wear your seatbelt. Put away all distractions like phones, food, makeup before you start the car. Follow all traffic laws and drive at a speed that is safe for the conditions. Know and enforce your state's graduated driver licensing laws. Make sure your teens understand them and talk to other parents about them as well to spread the word in your community. Teach your kids that they have a voice. We all think about peer pressure when it comes to drugs and alcohol. It's just as important when making decisions about getting into and using a vehicle. If something feels wrong, your teen should feel empowered to speak up. And if there are other drivers or passengers that don't respond, they should feel empowered to stop and get out of the car. We all want to give our kids freedom and encourage them to grow into thriving adults. Driving is a privilege, and the type of freedom that comes with being a new driver, well, that's something we must help them earn. We can tell them what to do until we're blue in the face, but none of it will stick if we don't back it up with our actions. Your teen is under your influence. Using these simple everyday tips, you can keep your family and everyone else safe on the road. Together, we can stop the #1 killer of young people, preventable car crashes. For more information, please visit impactteendrivers.org.
Okay. So let's take a moment to think about the excellent points made in this video. Be sure to talk to your kids. Let them know, hey, you see that I'm making safe decisions behind the wheel, or I know I've made mistakes in the past choosing to drive a certain way, but I want you to be able to see that what a good driver looks like is someone who's always focused, someone who isn't picking up the phone and talking on the phone, someone who isn't drinking a non-alcoholic beverage or eating while I'm driving, because you want your teen to make it home safe. If you want to make good drivers, you have to role model that. We have to role model that. Obviously, wear your seatbelts. North Dakota has a primary seatbelt law, so all of us should be doing that. Put away distractions. Follow all traffic laws, not just rolling through a stop sign, making sure we're coming to a complete stop, using our blinker. Very simple things can go a long way, especially when our teens are watching us. Know and enforce GDL laws. Molly's going to talk about that a little bit later. And then work with other parents too. Talk to other parents, see what they're doing in their cars. Talk about how you want your kids to notice good driving behavior, and talk with other parents and get them on board with you so that we can all role model safe driving behavior. You are the #1 influencer of your teens. Okay. Now, parents, take a moment to stop and think about the kind of driver or passenger you want your teen to be. I want you to take a good look at this graph. We are pointing out, the red arrows point out the teen traffic deaths in America. They are the #1 unintentional cause of death in teens. And so we want to make sure that kids also know that. So you can see drowning, poisoning, and suicide and homicide are all listed on here, but motor vehicle traffic deaths are the #1 killer of teens. You can start telling your teens, getting into your car is probably the most dangerous thing you're going to do. I know we've been seeing a lot of things in the news about these plane crashes that are happening. Your kid is still more likely to get into a car crash than they are to be in a plane crash, despite what the news might be telling you. So, nearly 4,000 teen deaths are due to car crashes every single year. These are 8 teens. These are an example. This is the number of teens that die every day in car crashes. And actually, each of the teens you see on here is an impact teen driver's story that we share with high schoolers across North Dakota. And each of these are a story of a family who lost a loved one. I'm going to share one with you today. You can see Ryan's picture is up there of the video you just saw. And I want you to notice the football player on the bottom right of the screen. His name is Donovan Tesmer. I'm going to share the story of Donovan. So Donovan was 18 at the time of the car crash he was in where he died. That night that he died, it was 2 weeks before his senior year started, and he was a phenomenal football player. He had several colleges looking at him to play for them. So they were going to scout him out. And this car crash happened about 3 days before the scouts could start reaching out to him. That night, Donovan and his friends went into a car that his girlfriend, Danica, was driving. And on their way back from watching a movie, They actually watched the Fast and the Furious. Danica was driving at a very high rate of speed, and Donovan and his two buddies in the back seat were fighting over a bag of chips and an energy drink. And then Alex, she was playing music in the passenger seat. And as you can imagine, as teens do, these are all good kids, by the way, all of them were just experiencing the energy in the car and having a good time. But as Danica was going faster and faster, the boys in the back seat started to jeer at her and say, "Geez, Danica, can't you keep the car going in a straight line?" And then kept on jeering at her. And she eventually says, "Oh, what, like this?" And she jerked the wheel back and forth. And when she did that at that high rate of speed, you can probably imagine the reaction the car had. She lost complete control of the car. And the car hit a tree, and the back door popped open, and all three boys flew out of the back seat because they weren't wearing their seatbelt. And then the car kept on going and hit a second tree, and on that second impact, Danica was trapped in the car. So Alex was the only one that was able to get out of the car and check on the boys. And she saw Dustin, one of the boys, was the only one conscious. And so she was yelling at Dustin, Dustin, get up, something's wrong with Donovan. He's not breathing." And so Dustin had a lacerated spleen, he had broken ribs, and he somehow was able to peel himself up off the ground and take his two fingers and place them on Donovan's neck and check for a pulse. And he and Donovan played football together. And in that moment, he found out that his best friend, Donovan, had died and that they'd never be playing football together again. And Gavin, the other boy in the car, had a massive spinal injury. He was given less than a 10% chance of surviving that night and was taken to the hospital, and the doctor said the best thing that we can do is put your son in a medically induced coma and hope that his body is able to heal itself. And then Gavin woke up 3 weeks later and was told three things. He didn't remember anything from the crash. So he was told, 1, you've been in a horrible car crash. 2, your best friend Donovan has died. We've already had the funeral, and the community is trying to move forward. And 3, we don't know if you'll ever walk again. And Gavin was a star soccer player. He also had colleges looking at him to play. But those dreams were shattered after that car crash. Now, each and every single teen of these has parents. Every single teen pictured here has a parent. And I actually got to meet Donovan's mom, Martha, 3 weeks ago. We did another training for Impact Teen Drivers. And this crash happened 18 years ago. Donovan died when he was 18. This crash happened 18 years ago. And as Martha's like sharing the story and talking about where the survivors are now, she was still crying, sharing her son's story. And she works heavily with Impact Teen Drivers, and she's still crying, talking about the loss of her son. And all of these families are choosing to share their teen story because they don't want anyone else to go through what they've had to go through. They don't want anyone else to experience the loss that they've had to experience. So yeah, it was very impactful meeting Martha. And I've told Donovan's story hundreds of times. And finally meeting her really brought that story to life for me. And to really recognize the grief and the loss that happens when especially a teen dies on our roadways. So of these teens, 50% were unbelted. They were not wearing their seatbelt at the time of the crash. 50% were passengers. The driver was a teen driver, and they were just a passenger in the crash, 50%. So it's just as important to talk about good passenger safety as it is about being a good driver. And also 75% of these crashes did not involve alcohol or drugs. This generation is doing a lot better than previous on alcohol and drug-related crashes in that they're minimizing it, but they are still an issue, but they're not as big of an issue as they used to be. All right, and now I'm going to invite Molly to come on up and talk about the wheel of distraction and some other statistics that we have.
3 volunteers, help me out.
Okay.
All right, so let's talk about something that affects us all, distractions while driving. We all like to think that we're good drivers, but the reality is small choices make a huge difference, and today we're going to prove it with this wheel of distractions. It sounds dramatic, but trust me, the numbers are just as shocking. So a little bit about this wheel. If you have one, go ahead and take a look at what is on the wheels, and if not, you can see it up on the screen. But the outer wheel is going to show us number of passengers, and then either day or night. The inner blue wheel is going to show a set of distractions, and then the final inner wheel is going to show us kind of like major distractions. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose a couple scenarios here to see how much more likely the risk of a crash is. And this is above and beyond just the normal risk of getting behind the wheel. So let's try one together. Should we choose day or night? Night? I heard night. And 1, 2, or 3 passengers? Let's go with 2. And how about something that a lot of teenagers do, which is adjusting the stereo. So if you have a wheel, you can turn these and match up the arrows. So the middle wheel is going to match up to 2 passengers on the red area, and we're going to be operating stereo. With no other distractions, your teen is already 9 times more likely to experience a car crash. Let's add something in there on the last wheel, like text messaging. This puts them up to 17 times more likely to get into a car crash. So when we slowly start to remove these distractions, because this is kind of a dramatic case, right? We're driving at night with 2 passengers, we're adjusting the stereo, and we're also texting. So I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, I never do that. I never do that thing. So let's remove the distractions and go back to just 2 passengers at night. Without any distractions. That's going to put your teen 6 times more likely to experience a car crash. So if they're acting perfect in a car and they just have a couple buddies, they're still 6 times more likely to experience a car crash. So here's the cool part. This wheel doesn't just show you the risk, it also helps you figure out how to bring it back down, as we did, removed the distractions. So maybe it is putting your phone out of reach, making a rule with your passengers, or just waiting until you're parked to deal with distractions. So we'll talk briefly about the North Dakota's graduated driver's license. In the video it did touch on it, but we'll talk about North Dakota specifically. So at 15, your teen can get their restricted license after completing driver's ed and then having a permit for 12 months. With this license, they are restricted to driving from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., unless it's for school, work, or religion. At 16, they're going to move to an unrestricted license, meaning those nighttime driving restrictions go away. And unlike every other state, there are no passenger restrictions. This means that a brand new 16-year-old can legally fill their car with friends on day 1. Their limitations are the same as you or I. They can have as many people as they have seatbelts in the vehicle. This is where parents play a big role. Just because the law allows it doesn't mean it's always safe. So we know that teen drivers with multiple passengers, as we demonstrated with the wheel, are at a much higher risk of crashes. So while North Dakota doesn't set these limits, you can. Setting a family rule, like limiting passengers or keeping that 9 p.m. rule in place, can help your teen gain experience without unnecessary risk. So here's some extra data that shows how dangerous nighttime driving and driving with teen passengers is for new drivers. This chart is going to show you the increased risk of fatal crash based on the number of teen passengers. So we're not just talking about simple fender benders, we're talking about the worst kind of crashes, the ones where someone loses their life. Simply by adding just 1 teen passenger under the age of 21, the risk of that inexperienced driver getting into a fatal crash goes up by almost 1.5 times. Having 2 teen passengers doubles the risk, and 3 or more quadruples the risk. Allowing your teen driver to have their friends in the car might not seem like a big deal on first thought, but the reality is the statistics tell us differently. It doesn't matter if your kid is a good kid. Car crashes being the #1 killer of young people holds true regardless of whether they're good kids, rich or poor kids, live in downtown San Francisco, or say rural North Dakota. Now look at the final bar on the chart. This is if you add 1 adult to the car. That adult makes the car ride safer than if the teen was driving on their own. You'll see this next chart is showing you that a disproportionate number of car crashes are occurring during those nighttime hours. So again, going back to the wheel, we were looking at 2 passengers only at night. That is why it's such a good idea to enforce that family rule we talked about of no driving during certain nighttime hours. As I stated in the video, there's a 40% decrease in teen fatalities nationwide, directly correlated to GDL laws when they're followed. But the laws only work for those who choose to follow them, even when no one is watching. The good news is that there's so much that you can do to keep yourself and your loved ones safe. Parents, I want to start by talking to you. Being here and starting this dialogue is an amazing first step towards keeping your family safe. So let's continue the discussion with your teens. Talk to them about driving with their friends, who they're allowed to drive with after the first year, who are they allowed to have as passengers after the first year, what sort of behaviors are acceptable as drivers and passengers, what expectations do you have for them when it comes to putting away distractions? Don't only talk to them about what they should or shouldn't be doing, but talk to them about why. It's not about just always looking over their shoulder, but rather about a continued conversation regarding your expectations when you are not in the car with them. You definitely can't have this conversation too frequently. There are so many parents like Donovan's mom who would give anything to go back and have one more conversation with their teen. Parents choose safety over convenience every time. You know your teen better than anyone else. If your teen has practiced driving for over 50 hours, but you feel that they need practice more than that, even if you think they need 150 or 200 hours, that's perfectly okay. A hairstylist in California has to have 800 hours of supervised professional experience before they can even cut anyone's hair solo. If you want to implement stronger restrictions about who your teen can drive with, where, and when, that is understandable, and although they might not like it, you will be doing your job as their protector. On the screen is a QR code that will take you to the Impact Teen Drivers website, where there's a ton of parent resources. And then we'll just skip over this one briefly because there's no teens in the room, but parents, if you want to scan that QR code and maybe send it to your teens, this is going to also take them to the Impact Teen Drivers website, where there's a ton of resources also for teen drivers. Impact Teen Drivers has 2 podcast series. One is a parent podcast where Impact Teen Drivers Executive Director Dr. Kelly Browning interviews affected family members and law enforcement and talks about life-saving strategies. There's also a teen podcast called It Won't Happen to Me, where it shares the real life of Aiden, who is a teen whose decision behind the wheel cost the life of another person. They're available on that website from those QR codes that were on the screen as well. Another opportunity we like to talk about is the Create Real Impact. So this is a contest that students can enter by either creating a media page or doing a video. And the cool thing is we have students right here in North Dakota from Lemoore High School that actually submitted a video and won some money. So I'll show you a quick example of one of the submissions.
Hello and welcome to Cooking with Chaos. Today I'll be showing you how to cook one of my favorite recipes, disaster. It's a surprisingly simple recipe. All it takes is 1 driver and 1 distraction. But today, we'll add many distractions to create a delectable ragout de catastrophe. First, put 1 car into a pot. Set your stove to 75 miles an hour. Put some jam on of your favorite music. Pour in your favorite drink. Toss in some noisy friends. And add 1 phone. Hello, how are you doing in there? This is terrible.
What? This is terrible. Chaos, I'll take over from here. Driving and distractions are a deadly blend. So buckle your seatbelt, turn off your phone, and avoid all other distractions. Driving is like cooking. It should be done without chaos.
So again, that's just another way that the teens can be involved, and our Vision Zero students in North Dakota here also enjoy doing those. So be the driver you want to be. And we want to thank you for being here for our session. I hope you learned some strategies on how to keep your family safe on the roadways. And remember, it isn't about the choices you made before you joined this presentation, but it's about what you do moving forward. Please feel free to reach out anytime if you have any questions, or if you would like any additional resources, or if you're interested in having one of our coordinators like Theresa or I come out to your community or your school and get involved with something you've got going on there. And we'll have another word from Ryan.
Are there questions? If there's any questions, I can try to handle them. If not, there is a Vision Zero booth where our coordinators will be the next couple of days. If you want to inquire about how you can bring some Vision Zero things to your community, our coordinators can talk to you about that. They can talk to you more about how we're doing these courses or Impact Teen Driver courses within any of your schools across the state, Vision Zero schools. They would be happy to answer any of your questions. Anybody have a question for the group that I can help answer? Well, we certainly appreciate you sitting through this new course that we are going to push forward with parents and teens throughout North Dakota. We think getting parents involved in the conversation that we've got our teens to will make a huge, huge difference as we move forward. So thank you for coming. Have a wonderful couple of days here. Drive safe on your way home wherever you may be going. And a special thanks to our two coordinators that were able to present to you today as well. So thanks for coming. Have a wonderful morning and a good conference.